half in the bag. I stood on my scale yesterday and it said 1 at a time, please.
Well, Mike, it's been a crazy few months. In sports news, I can't believe that the Chicago Cubs finally won the World Series.
And in politics, the U.S. presidential election is over as well. I can't believe that insert criminal's name here won the election.
It's pretty strange. And speaking of strange, finally released in U.S. theaters is Kashmora, parenthetical Telugu, starring Karthik Sivakumar, Nayanthara, and Sri Divya. Have you seen it?
No, but I have seen Doctor Strange.
You think you know how the world works? You think that this material universe is all there is? But what if I told you the reality you know is one of many?
If you ever wanted to watch a film that was a perfect blend of Star Wars, The Matrix, Inception, Iron Man, Batman Begins, Big Trouble in Little China, The Last Airbender, and Dr. House MD, then boo, A Medea Halloween is the movie for you. If you wanted to see a different film altogether, then check out Marvel's Doctor Strange. In this new literal expansion of the Marvel Multiverse universe, Eggs Benedict Cabbage Patch plays Doctor Strange, a man that can do anything by channeling powers from the universe. He learned this power from reading books and practice. He went to Hong Kong to try to cure his busted up hands, but ended up becoming a space magician battling some dudes who wanted to bring another space god to Earth to become immortal. Oh, and I guess he was also in love with Rachel McAdams, because if he was just doing magic with a bunch of dudes, he'd be Dr. Queer, not Dr. Strange. Mike, what did you think of Doctor Strange?
It was strange. I had no interest in Doctor Strange, and there were certain things in the movie I liked, but overall, I enjoyed it, sort of, but was also kind of bored and wanting more.
Would you be shocked to learn that the Doctor Strange character was created in the 60s?
No. No, I would not.
Those are the aspects of the movie that I liked. I'll say this. The biggest complaints that people that aren't really into the Marvel movies have, kind of about all the Marvel movies as a whole, is that in general they have weak villains. The origin stories are always really lopsided, where the first half is an origin story, and then, then we need to have him fight a villain in the second half, and it always feels rushed. And the female characters are underwritten and or unnecessary. All those things are prevalent in this movie, and I would agree that those are the weakest points of the movie, and yet I still really, really liked the movie despite those, almost exclusively because of the strength of the visuals and the creativity of the set pieces.
Well, that's what this movie was. It was set piece the movie.
Which I was fine with. In this particular case, it's not like the character of Doctor Strange is weak or the story was weak. It was just very standard. It was an excuse to hang all the weird stuff on.
Yeah, but I wasn't, like I've seen ads for the movie and they're like, visually breathtaking. You've never seen anything like it.
Oh, are they really pushing that stuff?
Yeah, that's the angle they're pushing.
Experience the film critics are raving will leave you spellbound.
When I was thinking they should really push the magic angle, because they got that new Harry Potter movie coming out, and the kids will want to, Doctor Strange, what?
Wizard battles, that's this whole
wizard
movie.
Battles, yeah. But they're pushing the twisty, I'm twisting up New York City Inception stuff.
Inception stuff?
It's
okay.
mind-boggling, but I'm just like...
It's visually stunning. You're gonna like it. The rare film worth seeing in 3D.
I don't want to be like an armchair visual effects person, but I'm just like, I don't care anymore. And I noticed the guy next to me, a couple seats down, he just goes, man, I'm checking out. Like, he said something like that, and I smelled booze. It's a good example of a movie roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
Insert joke of me and the little Halloween cart right here. You're right, origin story, first half, got to fight this boring villain.
Yeah.
And then we set up that origin story for Doctor Strange 2, when he's going to fight another boring villain. I felt this great sense of blandness when I was watching it, because I'm sitting there, I'm like, you know what I really miss in movies? I miss a villain I just hate. And I didn't hate the villain. He's like, I got purple eyes, I want to do a thing.
He's adequate. Everything in this movie is adequate.
I didn't, you're introduced to their secret society of magician wizards, and you're like, here's the stakes, we can't dabble with dark arts, which was very Star Warsy.
Yeah.
Don't use the dark side, it'll lead to bad things. And then this guy wants to do something. And then, and then so it's like, that's all there. He calls him an asshole. Doctor Strange calls the bad guy an asshole at one point. And I'm like, I miss movies from the 70s and the 80s. I was thinking Big Trouble Little China a lot in this movie, because white guy and Asian culture and crazy shit.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I want Kurt Russell, like, just saying weird things and being stupid. I want swearing. I want vulgarity. I want a bad guy I hate. And it's like, it's so bland. We can't do this. We can't do that. And a lot of this was fueled in the back of my mind by an article I read that said Doctor Strange is racist.
Oh,
The movie's racist because it's a man from the West. It's when Western medicine fails, we look towards the East. And the East is all mystical and spiritual. And so it's cultural appropriation of the East. And then I'm like,
Well, that clash of cultures is sort of the driving force of the movie.
Well, they're saying that, when the white man from the West runs out of options, he goes to the mysticism of the East and rapes it. And that was basically the article's point. And then I also saw the trailer for the new Matt Damon film before this called The Great Wall.
Yeah.
From visionary director you've never heard of. It's a Chinese film. And then they're saying, Matt Damon, you're whitewashing. And he's like, I'm just in the movie. They hired me. The film's fucking made in China by Chinese people. And they wanted me because of my name. And then like, it's a whitewash, get it. And I'm like, oh God. And so everyone's like on eggshells about topics. I just want to see a movie where everyone swears and there's a bad guy I hate and Doctor Strange is fucking weird. And instead it's just like tiptoeing on all these little things. And then I'm just, oh, look at the city's twisting around. You did that with your computers. I don't care what's happening.
I'm going to say in defense of the effects, because
the effects are great.
Well, the effects are great, but I think we've often talked about how the effects in every movie are great now, to the point where you're just sort of numb to it, as you're talking about now. But the problem with all these other movies is they can do anything, but everything just kind of looks the same. They're not very imaginative. It's like oh, there's a CG Ninja Turtle, and things like that. This movie is doing things that I've never seen in a movie before on this scale.
It's other than Inception.
Well, that's the thing. It's Inception because Christopher Nolan's a wet blanket. We're in a dream world. We can do anything we want. Oh, a couple buildings turned, and he keeps it very grounded, even though it's a dream world. So to see a movie go this far off into fantasy, and I mean, there's a whole sequence that looks like it's like a 60s album cover, brought to life and animated and moving and all that stuff. I appreciated seeing something that was that creative and elaborate, that actually went farther than most of these modern movies do.
I guess
my appreciation for the movie is completely reliant on the visuals and the filmmaking, because the story is bland as fuck.
Well, yeah. I mean, I appreciated the visuals, but I mean, you of all people know that a special effect without a story is a pretty boring thing.
Oh, sure. Well, this is the thing.
Someone once said.
Who said that?
Steven Spielberg.
Okay.
Steven Spielberg's non-union Mexican equivalent.
Okay.
What they're doing is showing off the amount of work that they generated. And it slows the pace of the film down. And the story is not the settings, the story is the story, it's the plot. A special effect without a story is a pretty boring thing.
Yeah.
In general, I agree with that, but this movie for me just felt like such a breath of fresh air I wish it had a better story. I wish that it didn't have the origin story. If we just went right into weirdness, there's like a 5-minute prologue or something.
Well, that's what I
mean.
mean.
I would have liked it even more, but just on the strength of the filmmaking and the visuals, it was, compared to everything else we see lately, that was enough for me.
Yeah, well, the thing is Marvel's success has been primarily because of riding the line and playing it safe.
Yeah.
And there's another thing I want to talk about is the humor. Beyonce.
That's a
and
complaint I have about the movie.
All those jokes, because you got to ride that line. Can't get too weird. Can't get too boring.
What's this, my mantra? It's the Wi-Fi password.
Got to add the rock songs now because it was successful in the other movie with Chris Pratt.
The Guardians of
the
the
Galaxy. This time, it needed to go in the Deadpool route, where Deadpool did not ride the line. They said, fuck you, we're swearing, we're having nudity, we're breaking the fourth wall. Doctor Strange needed to do that a little more, in my opinion. I mean, it's not a bad movie. It's a fine movie. I was just bored by all the action. And the only thing I liked, spoilers from here on out.
Okay.
The only thing I liked was in the end when he does the little trick with the demon from the other dimension.
That ending was amazing. It
he's
wasn't a city being destroyed.
Yeah, it was actually destruction being put back together.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, great, But the whole premise of the ending was I figured out earlier in the film by dabbling in the dark arts, the dark dimension or whatever, that I can do the spell that reverses time. It shows him with the apple, like he eats the apple down and then makes the apple come back, reverses and forwards time. And so he tricks the demon in the end in a time loop. And it's like, hey, and he's jumping over, and I could go through this all over. Let me out of this.
It's him doing a clever thing that he learned earlier in the film to bargain with the villain instead of just tons of fighting and punching faceless henchmen.
But it's also a lot of like weird. He's like, I'm going off to this weird dimension with purple bacteria.
Yeah, lots of neon lights.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, that's great. This is fun. Can you spend the half of the movie in this dimension? Now we gotta do kung fu fights, and we gotta run up and down things. And I was just like, I don't know what's going on. I don't care. So set piece the movie. Set piece one, opening with Tilda Swinton.
Which was a bad way to start the movie. I think if
Yes.
you're going to do this origin story, you need
Build
to
up.
start it more grounded and build it up.
Yeah, you don't give away all of your like city bending effects in the first 5 seconds.
Yeah, that would have been really exciting if the first time we see that is the first time Doctor Strange sees it.
When Tilda Swinton shows up, and then they go, oh fuck, it's the Ancient One.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here.
Keep it mysterious.
Show her just a little bit of her powers and then keep it mysterious. Instead, it's like, here's everything. Here's our whole hand. They're a full house. Here it is. Take a look, folks. Yeah. Now let's bet. The whole movie, all I pictured was Hugh Laurie as Doctor Strange. And it's like walking with the cane, like popping Vicodins the whole time. And I'm like, I wish Hugh Laurie was cast as Doctor Strange.
He was fine. I do like that they made the character of Doctor Strange, especially early on, like genuinely kind of unlikable.
Oh yeah,
I appreciated that.
I appreciated it when they did it in Iron Man.
Well, that's the thing though, is unlike Iron Man, because Tony Stark is very arrogant and he has that same sort of smarmy attitude, but he's also very charismatic. Benedict Cumberbatch, at least the way he plays this role, he's not charismatic, so he comes across way less likable, which I appreciated. Yeah. There's a scene early on when he gets in the accident, his hands are all fucked up, and Rachel McAdams comes to see him, and they get into an argument. And there's a moment where he just says something like really cutting and mean, and everyone in our theater was like, oh.
Yeah. Well, she says, you have a lot to live for, and he's like, what, like you?
What, like you? And it was like, I appreciated that they were willing to make him that much of a dick early on.
Yeah, I mean, Tony Stark is a narcissist and an egomaniac genius, and this guy's just a genius jerk.
Yeah.
Very similar storyline, though. I'm physically injured. I have to repair myself, and there comes my superpower, and now I'm learning to do good.
There's 3 or 4 comic book origin stories. That's pretty much it. They all have the same basic setup.
Yeah, but then like, you know, it feels like it's one of those movies that comes along every now and then, where it feels like it's a bunch of ideas from 5 other things, you know.
I think the central character was fine. I liked Doctor Strange for the most part as a character. It's really just the story is, we've seen this before.
Yeah.
And the dialogue is weak. And yeah, like we'd mentioned, the humor felt more forced than usual in these Marvel movies. There's the Wong character, and he's the librarian, and Benedict Cumberbatch comes in, he's like, Wong? Just Wong? Like Adele? And then he looks at the camera and waits for applause. And you're like, got it.
Or a hold for applause sign.
And then he's like Beyonce? She's a great musician. And then next scene, Wong is listening to Beyonce. It's like, ugh, got it.
there's never that scene. Oh, Batman Begins is another one, because
Oh, sure.
Christian Bale goes to the Orient. Is that still acceptable to say? I don't think so. He goes somewhere to Tibet, right? And this one it's Hong Kong. He goes to Tibet, I think, in Batman Begins, and then, but that training stuff was more stretched out, and it was more like. In this, it's just he's there. He's like, fix my hands. What's this acupuncture nonsense? And then the next scene, it's like, I read 70 books. I'm done.
Yeah, that's
Now
another
can
thing. Is
do
it's hard to gauge the past, like how much time passes in this movie. It's like, how long has he been training? How long has he been there? We don't really know. And then he goes back and he sees Rachel McAdams.
Yeah.
She's like, where have you been? And it's like, he's only been gone for like a week, it feels like.
Yeah, there's not that crucial scene where he's broken and changed. It seems very easy for him to transition from Western ideals to the Eastern mythological spirituality stuff. It seems just very easy. Like, I just read some books. When in like Batman Begins, it seemed more arduous.
Yield. You haven't beaten me. You have sacrificed sure footing for a killing stroke.
And it felt more earned.
And you felt the passing of time.
You felt
more.
Yeah. And this, it's just like, okay, and I'm not expecting this to be like really brutal and realistic. And it's a silly movie about a guy with a cape. The composer, I'm not sure how to say his name right, Michael Giacchino. Gianosis. He did the Star Trek score.
Star Trek.
This has the Star Trek music in it. And I don't know.
Is this the same score?
Yeah, it's the same score with like slight variations on a couple of the notes. Okay, someone out there has to have also noticed this. Because they played that same theme. It's like the new Star Trek theme in the J.J. Abrams movies.
Okay.
And it's the exact same music in this. It's really kind of shocking at laziness.
See, I didn't notice it because I don't remember the music from Star Trek, because so many movies have the most bland, forgettable scores.
I know what you're saying with that, but I do remember the Star Trek music, and I can't hum it exactly, but I could hear it, and this is exactly the same. So someday, someone needs to put those two tracks together. Maybe I'll do it, and just you can both listen to the tracks, because just trust me on this. Trust me. You put all your faith in an alcohol. They know what they're talking about.
I'm checking out.
Let's talk about Rachel McAdams. Doctor Strange's God Case of the Not Gays.
Rachel McWho?
The lady from The Notebook.
Oh, sure, but I just mean in this movie. She's completely useless.
Dr. So-and-so. Her purpose is he has a case of the not gays. As a doctor, you think you could cure himself of the not gays with a simple antibiotic. But Rachel McAdams is there, and Doctor Strange is. They dated. He's not Liberace in a cape, everybody.
Why can't he be?
Well, sure, go ahead and leave Rachel McAdams out and have him have sex with Kong. Or whatever his name, Wong?
Oh, Wong, the librarian?
Yeah, why not? Leave Rachel McAdams out then. But, they had to establish his medical practice, and they gave him a little love interest. But I thought there was going to be a Superman moment, because he goes back to the hospital. I've been stabbed in my heart with something. Help me, Rachel McAdams. And then they have a whole action sequence, and then he's like, I've got to go. And then he's like, oh, wait. Wax on, wax off.
Yes.
Makes the space hole, and then there's some kind of vista beyond him. I don't know where he's going. And I thought we were going to have a 1978 Superman scene where
Come see these crazy
crazy landscapes with me. I'm going to take you on this romantic adventure, and we're going to jump through portals, and I'm going to take you all over the world. And then we're going to have a nice smooch on a mountaintop in a beautiful landscape, and then you're going to wake up at home and say, did that happen? And that would have been beautiful and lovely.
What'd they do instead?
He goes, I have to go now, bye. I have to go fight a guy with purple eyeshadow on with my magic friends in Hong Kong. something's happening. I don't really know what, but I gotta go. Bye. Give me a little love story, please. Give me a little love story.
Well, if you're going to introduce that aspect of it, or just keep it out completely.
Yeah, because then she won't be in the next one. She has a busy hospital job. Remember when they tried to write off Natalie Portman's missingness from...
How did they even do it? I don't remember.
He's like, Jane has some work in Africa with the apes.
And then they just like moved on.
And then she's gone.
I think that was a Jane Goodall joke. I don't really know.
You're a man looking at the world through a keyhole, and you've spent your whole life trying to widen that keyhole, to see more, to know more. And now, on hearing that it can be widened in ways you can't imagine, you reject the possibility.
No, I reject it because I do not believe in fairy tales about chakras or energy or the power of belief.
Tilda Swinton's great in this movie.
Yeah.
It's nice to see her, like, as I know that was sort of a part that also had controversy surrounding it, because the character in the comics was like a wise old Asian man. So
Yeah, why did they do that?
they were calling this whitewashing, but I think it's sort of a damned if you do, damned if you don't thing. Like, if you keep the old Asian man, then you have that stereotype, the wise Asian mystical man, kind of trainer character. So you do that, and people complain that it's a stereotype. You change it, and then people complain that it's not like it was in the comics. So I think they just did what they could, and I think Tilda Swinton's an interesting choice because you don't see, especially a female in that type of role very often. And
Shouldn't it be gender empowering now?
Well, see, people don't know what to make of it.
Yeah.
It's whitewashing, but it's gender empowering, but it's avoiding stereotypes, but I don't even know anymore.
I pushed your astral form out of your physical form.
What's in that tea? Psilocybin? LSD?
It's just tea. With a little honey.
She's a Kung Fu Jedi master who's going through chemotherapy.
Yeah, which is great.
That's
I think
very-
Tilda Swinton, seeing like an interesting actress that's not usually in these type of movies, play that part, I think was a good choice.
Yeah, they said she's from Celtic descent.
Yeah.
So she's Irish. They didn't say she's Irish. That was something that's so like rough and awful.
Yeah.
They've been, oh my God, Irish? What does she drink all day? And like,
You used to love coming to those things with me. We had fun together.
Oh, you had fun. They weren't about us, they were about you.
Not only about me.
Stephen, everything is about you.
and they're like, everyone likes when Iron Man's a dick to everyone, and he's
Yeah.
sassy and sarcastic. And I kind of would have just liked Doctor Strange if he was just like a bitter, broken man. Him cracking wise kind of just felt outside of the character. It didn't
He
seem-
worked better when he was played more straight.
I like the part where him and Tilda Swinton are like, she's like, acupuncture and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh God, like, oh God, holistic shit. And,
Yeah.
and he's really like dismissive of it. And I like that aspect of him, how he can learn. But we really didn't have those really crucial scenes where he's awakened to this new way of thinking. It's sort of just like, turn the page and now he's done it.
I would say cut the training sequences all together. Have it be a 5-minute prologue, and have the movie just go and
That's
have,
fine,
have
too.
him go bargain with giant interdimensional monsters, and that's the movie.
Yeah.
Because that was the best stuff.
I'm Doctor Strange and I'm here. I have to leave the galaxy now. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure, I would have something batshit crazy would have been fine. So I don't know. This is sort of middle of the road for me.
Through the mystic arts, we harness energy and shape reality. We travel great distances in an instant.
How do I get from here to there?
How did you become a doctor?
Study and practice, years of it.
For me, it missed the mark on a lot of the strengths of the Marvel movies, which is their blend of doing something serious and then not taking it serious.
Yeah.
Like there are moments in this movie where something dramatic would happen, like at the end when the one guy who was like very strict to the, don't mess with the rules of nature guy, and he's like, you must always pay, the mistakes will always be paid for. He says some line like that and he walks off, and then Benedict Cumberbatch is like, and then I'm like, is this a serious moment or is he gonna go, well, what do you say we get some takeout? Like, is that going to happen?
Yeah.
Or am I supposed to take this seriously?
Yeah.
Like, it didn't know when to throw a joke in, and I didn't know when to take the thing seriously because he would joke like what's his name? Wong, like was also adherent to the rules of don't mess with the rules of nature.
Yeah.
And then so Doctor Strange is like, I'm doing a thing it has something to do with the dark arts, but we're winning the fight against the bad guys. And he's like, is that okay, Wong? And he's like, well, if it's working, and then essentially what the other guy says at the end is the same thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, this is a joke now. Or it wasn't a joke. It was a joke before, but now it's not a joke. Where's Beyonce? Oh, we haven't made a Doctor Strangelove joke this whole time, Jay.
No, and we haven't mentioned Dr. Mordred.
What's that?
Dr. Mordred is the 90s direct-to-video movie. It was produced by Charles Bands, who's responsible for Puppet Master and Demonic Toys and all that crap.
He's a stand-up guy here.
He's a very, very good businessman, and he's very
respected,
fair and honest, and
well-liked
by a lot of people. But he had the rights to do Doctor Strange at one point. I don't know how he ended up with them, but those rights lapsed, and so he just made a movie anyway, and he just called it Dr. Mordred. And the visual effects in Doctor Strange, the new movie, are almost as good as the effects in Dr. Mordred.
I find that easy to believe. So, Jay, would you recommend Dr. Mordred?
No, other than, if you like Jeffrey Combs a lot, it's pretty great.
I do.
Okay. It's mostly a pretty boring movie, though, like all those full moon movies. We got this fantastical, crazy idea, but then 90% of the movie is just people talking.
But would you recommend Doctor Strange?
I would. It has all the problems we've talked about. It has a lot of the problems that a lot of Marvel movies have, but for me, you seem to be kind of numb to the set pieces and the action stuff. That's the stuff that really, really worked for me. And I thought just as a visual theater-going experience, it was one of the more interesting movies I've seen this year. We've seen there's psychedelic 60s movies, and there's a couple of sequences in this movie that reminded me of that, but something done with modern technology, this elaborate.
They had
was
done
interesting
it
to me.
with 1960s technology, like shooting through a kaleidoscope with the camera, like weird, trippy stuff like that. I probably would have liked it better. Okay. It felt very clean, very computer. I just pictured thousands of animators animating it in a sterile laboratory, and it didn't have that same wow, this is fresh and different. It just felt like, look at this. Here it is. Our computers turn these buildings. Isn't that great? And I wasn't amazed by that, and I should have been. And that's the kind of depressing thing, is that ending was neat, where they were fighting while time was going slower or backwards or something.
Yeah,
something very different was happening. And I was like, wow, this really should be neat, but I'm not finding it very neat.
Is it just more so that you just weren't engaged in the story? And
I think that might be it. Yeah.
That's a big part of it, and that is the weakness of the movie. Yeah. But for me, the visuals kind of overpowered that a bit.
But it's always a safe bet with the Marvel movies, and that's the attribute, the ringing attribute for this film is that it played it very safe, and that will work for a majority of audiences, and it will make a lot of money, and it will get well reviewed. They didn't take a big risk with this one, when they probably should have, based on how weird the character is. Well, Jay, what are next?